Markets backing up a little bit today as Bitcoin takes a little bit bigger of a nosedive back under the 200-week moving average. We'll take a look at that. Coming off the news of the Binance lawsuit by the SEC. So let's jump in and take a look at what's going on. That's the big news of the day. The SEC suing Binance and CEO CZ for U.S. securities violations. Obviously, we've talked about Binance and Tether being the next potential shoe to drop and the consequences on the markets if that were to happen. But in the meantime, the Dow was down just a little bit, 0.59, S&P down 0.2, NASDAQ down 0.9 as the S&P touched its highest level since August, and all of the markets have been on a bit of a tear with the AI news and everything. Apple with their release of all their updates, and the Vision Pro at $34.99. Apple stock was up a little bit today, but then retreated after breaching the all-time high. So let's jump in and take a look at what's going on. Of course, we have events in Ukraine with the offensive underway there, and tensions ramping up with China. So a lot of things weighing on the markets right now. And of course, we have the Treasury that has to replenish the Treasury general account. A lot of debate and speculation on what effects that's going to have on the markets. Bottom line is they have to issue T-bills to fund the debt. And, that's going to suck liquidity out of the markets that would otherwise potentially go into risk assets. But big news of the day, obviously, was Binance. And this is Bitcoin. Interesting, these little trend lines and channels, how Bitcoin found support right on that trend line there on the bottom leg. And again, like I said, if we take a look at the moving averages, still well above the 200, below the 100-day, lost the 100-day, working its way towards the 200 and rejected on the 50. So have we seen that before? Last time we saw Bitcoin lose the 100 and the 50, went down and put the bottom in back in November, lost the 50 right here, but found support on the 100. So far was finding support on the 100, but lost support today on the Binance news, which is going to continue to weigh markets down. Lost, rejected on the 100 there, started its descent down. And of course, the last time we had the major event was, the FTX situation. That's when the market saw one of the last legs down. So, how big of a weight will this be on the markets? We'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. But the big news is Bitcoin had been finding support above the 200-week moving average, has now lost the 200-week moving average. Last time we saw that was back in this area here of August. And then, of course, ultimately went down to the bottom from there. And let's just look at this. Once it lost to drop 30%. So if Bitcoin were to drop 30% from losing the average here, puts it right back around, 18,000. So around the bottom level of this initial range here before the FTX debacle and everything kind of fell off the cliff from that point. So we'll just have to keep our eyes on that and see if Bitcoin can hang on to this lower trend line here and hang on to that, get back above that 200-week moving average, or if it's going to break this and shoot down to that 25 that we've been kind of looking for after this head and shoulders, which would kind of be the lower level of the head and shoulders. I guess it sort of failed because, of this consolidation here, this pop up to the upper, trend line here. But let's take a look at traditional markets. Here's the Dow. Starting to retreat. Let's see where the Dow retreated on the Fibonacci's right now, right at the 618. So the Dow could not get above the 618 here. Lately, it did pop up over here back in May earlier, but has not been able to get above it right now. So that's pretty interesting. The NASDAQ, let's see if the NASDAQ, let's see where this ended up. NASDAQ did break the 618, was heading for the 702, not quite there yet. Will it reach out and make the 702? We'll have to wait and see if that happens. In the S&P, where is the S&P stalling out right now? At the moment, S&P stalling out right before the 618. So major Fibonacci retracement levels for traditional markets. And we didn't put any Fibonacci's on Bitcoin. Let's take a look at that real quick in a second. So the VIX, still down on these lower levels in the 14s. Last time we saw VIX in these levels was back in November 2021, and we know what that was. That was the top of the markets had a big volatility spike, and that was the end. And we've been in a down market ever since. But the last time we saw this level on the VIX was November of 2021. And where was that on the Dow? November of 2021 was right here, right before the big, that was really, I guess the peak came in January. But that was a big moment. November 2021 was the peak. There was a double top on NASDAQ as well, S&P, same thing. So that was right around the top of the markets. Let's go back, look at the VIX again, because there's November. Even December was up a little higher. So this is this area here where the market kind of danced around, double topped before the volatility spike up into the 30s. And then the market obviously rolled over from there. So will we see that again now that we're down to this level? Or will the VIX kind of continue to consolidate in this range? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The dollar kind of hanging out right now, not quite reaching out to the 105 level yet. 2-year kind of consolidating in the 4.5% range, 10-year in the 3.7, 3.8 range, kind of hanging out. We'll see what the effects of the Treasury rebuilding their account looks like. Oil, big news on oil is OPEC coming out with their oil cuts. The question is there enough demand for that to even matter? Initially spiked on the news, rolled back over because the cuts haven't really started yet. Obviously they want to get the oil back up to about 80, 90 bucks a barrel, with oil falling all the way down recently to $63. That's going to be a tough task because global demand is down. Doesn't matter how limited the supply is, if there's no demand, it makes no difference. Kind of like when you're talking about, Bitcoin with limited supply, that's great, but there's got to be demand to match that supply. So right now in this range here, let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin in this retracement right now. Working its way to the 382. So we'll see. That's right around that 25,000 level that we've been talking about. So we'll have to wait and see. It looks like Bitcoin's going to hunt for that 382 and see if that will hold in terms of a retracement. Ethereum kind of following suit, dropping a little bit on the day, about the same, 4 or 5%. XRP turning over after reaching out to its higher levels of this recent run. Pretty much all the crypto market down with Bitcoin. Obviously some to bigger degrees on the low cap alts after this, range of accumulation. So the Binance news weighing heavily on the markets. Here's NVIDIA, way above the all-time high at this point, consolidating a little bit. And let's take a look at Apple rolling over, breached the all-time high briefly and then rolled back over immediately. So we'll have to see if it will be able to find support here or if it's going to go back in and fill some of these gaps on the way up, just like Meta. Meta's got a couple of gaps to fill in. And then, of course, NVIDIA has been on a tear. So once the dust settles and reality sets in, will NVIDIA go back and refill these gaps to the upside and consolidate more around $200? We'll have to wait and see if that's going to happen and how much more, excitement there is. All of the major chip makers, AMD has a gap to fill on the downside. TSM has a gap to fill on the downside. Intel left in the dust by everything else. Coinbase taking a little bit of hit today on the Binance news. So again, the big news of the day is Binance and CZ being sued by the Security and Exchange Commission. So we'll have to see how this plays out and shakes out. Of course, they came out and denied everything, and we all know that they've obviously been operating illegally. They've even admitted it internally, operating as an unregulated exchange, unregulated securities, laundering money, all kinds of illegal activities, operations, wash trading, commingling funds, trading with user funds, things like that. So, it's just the nature of an unregulated business like that in the space. There's no surprises there. We all knew it was just a matter of time. So the real question is, will there be any exposure and fallout for Tether, and how is all this going to affect the overall crypto markets as things continue to unfold? So just at the beginning stages, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of talk out there about what's going on, but at the end of the day, things are going to be brought into the light, and the chips are going to fall where they fall, and then obviously the space will recover. There's other exchanges out there, might be a good boost for Coinbase at the end of the day. when, if and when things, happen to Coinbase, whether or not they end up, we'll just see where things end up and how things go. But anyways, interesting times out there in the space. And I will see you on the next video.